Hello, welcome to another local author chat. I am here today with Young Vo. Oh, you know what? I think Young Vo just accidentally bumped out of the Facebook Zoom. Oh no. All right, well, hopefully he is going to come right back. I'm not sure what happened there. Oh, here he is. All right, wonderful. We'll just wait for a second. His book Gibberish is out, and we do have a copy of his book here in the library. Here, and he's back. Yay! Young.
Yay.
I was just telling our audience that we do have your book Gibberish in the library, and I am going to be including links to your website and the library catalog link. I'll put those all in the show notes for our YouTube video afterwards when we upload this. So welcome to you, Vo. Young Vo, welcome back. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. Sorry for the rough start there.
No
Okay,
problem.
so the first question I have is like super easy. I just was hoping you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I recently moved to Vancouver actually. So came from Maryland. And that's where I wrote Gibberish. And we recently moved here. I grew up in Spokane, Washington, actually. We came from Vietnam to Washington. And then I grew up until high school, and then I moved to California, went to Maryland for work, and then now I'm back here. So
Wow, that is
yeah,
quite the journey. That's all
yeah,
over the place.
yeah.
How long have you been living in Vancouver then?
I want to say less than a year.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
great,
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Awesome. So the book, Gibberish, what was it like to write it?
So Gibberish, that's a long story. So basically, the idea for Gibberish actually started in my sketchbooks. Like, I mean, as I was like in art school, I was, they tell us, fill your sketchbook every semester, and so I'm constantly trying to draw and trying to get better. And then some of these characters, gibberish characters, kind of started, appearing and reappearing in a lot of my sketchbooks. And the story of gibberish has always kind of lingered in my mind, because like it gibberish is a story really somewhat autobiographical, and from my own experience and stuff. And so it kind of like emerged from my sketchbooks, and then eventually I just, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make this into a story, And so that's kind of like the origin of it, but there's a lot more there if you want to dig into it.
I mean, it's all interesting. I love to hear all of it. Yeah, I mean, specifically the gibberish symbols, like how did you come up with that? Like, that's amazing.
Okay, so the gibberish symbols is actually an alphabet for you parents out there and teachers. Like, so if you can actually decipher gibberish, and you can kind of learn gibberish similar to how Dat learned gibberish. So there's a page, or there's a spread in the book where basically where Dat kind of pieces things together. I have the words like book there, and then I have the gibberish letters for book there. So like you look for two symbols that are next to each other, like the O and O. That's the letter. That's a symbol for an O. So you can kind of decipher it. A funny story was like the first month that gibberish came out, I got a direct message in my Instagram, from a friend going, "I deciphered your gibberish," and I'm like, "What?" And he actually wrote out like, "I told you so," in gibberish to me, and I'm like, "Whoa, that's amazing," So
That's
uh,
great.
yeah.
So are you like fluent in gibberish now?
I wish I was. I still have a cheat sheet where I'm like looking it up, because like I get letters sometimes from students or teachers, where like they're deciphering gibberish, and then students will write in gibberish, and then I have a little cheat sheet, or they'll ask me questions like, how do you write this in gibberish or something like that, and I will have to like kind of figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
How did your book get published? This is your first book, right?
Very first book, my debut. So once once I got the story out of my sketchbooks and I wrote it out and I kind of like I tried to make it into a short film, but then that didn't work because like it was too overwhelming of a task to do by myself. So I thought, okay, what's another way for I tell the story? And then picture book kind of came up because as an artist, I think all artists and animators love picture books just because like it's it's a nice combination of like visual storytelling and like in prose. Um, so so once I kind of made it into what I thought was the picture book, and then I went to an SCWI conference, and, then I learned some more. I'm like, oh, this is actually not really a picture book. So I started like researching what it really took to make a picture book in terms of like the page turn and the composition and then word placement and all that stuff. And I
Mhm.
thought, oh, I'm ready. And then so I send it out to agents and stuff like that to see if anybody will be interested. And basically it got a lot of rejection letters. And
Oh, man.
yeah, and so I went to another SCBWI conference, and then at the very last seminar, I sat in the back row with my friends, and then this person came up uh, and said, "Oh, is the seat next to you taken?" I'm like, "Oh no, sit down." And he sat down, and we started talking, and then during the panel, we were like, oh, kind of joking a little bit. Oh yeah, that about like some of the topics. And then after the panel was done, all these people ascended on this one guy, and I'm like, why are people like around this one person? And like they were talking to him, giving him cards, and so I'm like scrambling. I'm like, I need to get my card out, So I'm like, and he's like, are you trying to give me your card? I'm like, yeah, because I'm like just fumbling around, and then he's like, here's my card, right? So I take his card. Oh, thanks. And then like this group of people just kind of took him away, right?
Wow.
And then so I'm looking at the card. And I'm like, Arthur Levine. Why does that sound so familiar? And then my my friend's like, Arthur Levine. If I knew that was Arthur Levine, I would have pushed you aside. Like,
Oh, man. That's
so
amazing.
yeah, so Arthur um um so I met him, and then I try to follow up with an email, obviously, and I was and then asked him, I have a book idea, if you're interested in reading it. And I told him like the book that I currently was working on, because I kind of gave up on gibberish because like I got all the rejection letters. I'm like, gibberish, you know what, maybe I'll self-publish it. I just put it aside for now. And then so I told him, hey, I have this story here, and then I also have this other story. It's kind of old. He's like, oh, actually, I like the tell me a little bit about that one, And I'm like, oh, okay. So I told him a little bit, and then and this is all through email, and then he asked me a question, and I think it was kind of rhetorical, but I didn't care. I just I kind of just like followed up with another email, and then we just exchanged emails for like I want to say probably like 9 months, maybe more. And I was just trying to have a conversation with them. I told myself like at that point, like, you know what? If the book doesn't get published, that's fine. At least I'm learning from this from him. He's actually talking with me about books and stuff like that, and he's asking me more about my story. And then around 9 months to a year, he just said, "Hey, you know what? Let's do this. Let's make this book." So that's how gibberish got
Oh my
started.
gosh. I
Yeah.
mean, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. I guess it really goes to show that like networking at these conferences can be really valuable.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also like what I learned from that experience was like basically like continue to talk to people and like learn from them, right? And like and just and be open to their suggestions and stuff. And I think that's what author was kind of doing. I think he was kind of seeing, can I work with this person, And so we were exchanging emails, and we were kind of like talking, and a lot of it was just fun banter. At the same time, he was also giving me information, and I took it, and then I interpret it, and that process continued into making gibberish. Like it was pretty much the same thing that we were doing before, but now it's just like it was kind of official, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And now you've got this relationship with this guy, with this publisher. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I love it. I love
yeah.
it. So I mean, gosh, that story is so great. I was going to ask you if there was anything that surprised you during that whole process, but it feels like it was so like, I don't know, was there anything that surprised you, like really stood out?
Um, I think one of the biggest things was like the cover for the book comes last. Like it's the last thing that we actually came up with, and I always thought it was the first thing. Like for whatever reason in my head, even when I first did my book dummy for Gibberish, I drew the cover first. I'm like, if I could get the cover, I'll understand the story. I'm like, and then basically when we're in the process of making Gibberish, the cover was the last thing we made, and then I kind of like it took me a while to like, wait, what? So the 'cause I actually had a cover, and we were using it. We
Uh-huh.
were using it, as we were kind of talking. And then he's like, okay, so now let's work on the cover. And I'm like, what? We have a cover, you know? And then and then so what I learned from that is that basically the cover, you need to know what the story is first. You gotta like figure out what it is, and then the best way to show it um in the front so that people can kind of get an idea of what the story is, because like you do it in the beginning you're just kind of guessing what the story is, so we do it at the end, and once we know what the story is, and like if we can maybe invoke an emotion or a feeling from the initial image that they see is the cover. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, sort of along those lines, do you have any advice you would give to like aspiring authors, people who are looking to write?
absolutely. Awesome question. I love talking to aspiring authors and illustrators. I think the biggest thing for me is being okay with failing. I think, and don't get stuck in trying to make the perfect thing. It's better to do something, finish it, and then move on to the next thing. Do something, finish it, and move on to the next thing. The reason for that is you learn more from trying than trying to perfect, if that makes sense. Um,
Mhm.
I think a lot of illustrators and writers, what they try to do is like they write the perfect book, you know, and their opus, and the very first one, right? And that doesn't happen. You talk to any writer, artist, the first couple are really rough, like because you're learning the craft, you're experimenting, you're trying to find that elusive thing that everyone talks about, your voice. You're trying to find that, and that you can only learn that through failure and through trying. And the most important thing is to finish whatever project you do. Like even if you finish and it's not good, just put it aside. You know, it's a think of it as a step that that to a ladder that you're building to where you need to be.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's my biggest advice, because that was a tough one to learn, and I think that if you can learn that early, it goes a long way. Yeah.
cool, cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. All right, so a favorite book. Do you have a favorite book that you like to recommend to people that you would love other people to read more of?
Uh, God, there's so many books. I think a recent one that I really really like, that it's a graphic novel. Um, it's called This Is Our Pact. Um, it's
Mhm.
it's a if you it's very imaginative, drawn really well. The pacing is great, and like um and if you like Miyazaki films, you're gonna like this book. It has that. I love books where like I'm reading it and it takes me back to my childhood. And this book does that. So this
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we have that one in the library, so I'll include a link to that in the
yeah,
show notes on the YouTube
awesome.
video. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, great. All right, so I have a couple of questions from the audience. People have written in
cool,
some questions.
awesome.
Celeste from Vancouver asks, which was harder, writing the book or illustrating the book?
Ooh. Um, I want to say illustrating the book. The reason is, even though I so coming from an art background, I went to art school and all that stuff. I thought, I'm like, oh, I can draw. How hard can this be? And then going through the process, learning to draw for a picture book was a challenge. Writing the story, I felt comfortable, but not like, but it was equally hard. It was hard, but it wasn't as hard as somebody that, I guess, because I came in with like certain expectations of my ability that were that quickly got shaken, because like I'm like, oh wow, this is not what a picture book should be. And also just finding the right visual voice was also hard for gibberish, because like if you go to my Instagram page, there's a post where I showed all the different versions of my character Dat that I went through. He went through a lot of different versions. To find the right visual voice for the story was hard. Like, and also because like there were cartoon characters, and then there was realistically rendered characters, and how to make them feel like they're in the same space while being jarring for the reader. That was really hard. So that part of it was unexpected.
Yeah. Okay, well, Maria from Camus asks, would you make a children's picture book again?
Absolutely, and I am in the process of making another picture book. So,
yay, awesome.
So get ready, people.
Yeah, you heard it here first. No, I don't know, maybe you didn't, but that's cool. Okay, well, Young, how can people find you and your book?
So you can go to my website, youngvoart.com. You can go there. I also have like reviews of the book if people are interested, and also links to where they can get it. And also you can obviously go to the Camus library to check it out. And also I'm on Instagram. That's where I do most of my updates if people are interested. I'll update more about the book once things get solidified a little bit more in terms of on the publishing side. I want to post some images and stuff like that, but I can't. But I will. So if you're interested in seeing images from the new book, follow me on Instagram. And it's also Young Vo Art. So yeah.
Great. Do you have an idea when that might be published?
We haven't set a date yet, but I don't know. I can't. I don't have.
No pressure.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Okay. Well, again, Young, I really appreciate you joining me for our local author chat today. Welcome to the Pacific Northwest southern part of Washington State.
Yeah.
And I'll see you around.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice talking.
Bye.